27 years we've been asking, who could take a 6-year-old boy and murder him and decapitate him? Who?
On a seemingly ordinary day in late July of 1991, Adam Walsh and his mother Reve stepped into a Sears department store in Hollywood, Florida. Both were completely unaware of the danger lurking ahead. As Reve stopped to take a look at the lamps, she left Adam at a kiosk that had an Atari 2600 video game on display. It was the last time she would ever see him alive and in one piece. Adam Walsh was your typical all-American boy. He played on a t-ball team with his friends, was interested in video games, and had a loving relationship with his family. At 6 years old, though he was still very young, Adam was smart, but he was also naive and innocent. John Walsh was a partner in a hotel management company in South Florida. Reve was a stay-at-home mom. The Walshes were living in a time where a false sense of security was present. Children played without adult supervision and were given freedom that is rarely seen with children today. This was Hollywood, Florida, a sunny city on the coastline, studded with beautiful beaches and scenery that looked fit to be in a Bermuda paradise. Reve often came to the mall to shop, and it was located right across the street from the police station. They had had no reason to worry. But when she returned to the kiosk 10 minutes later, Adam and the other boys were nowhere to be seen. Reve wasn't worried at first. She figured that Adam had run off to play somewhere else with the kids and asked a few customers if they had seen him run off. When an hour passed and there was still no sign of Adam, Reve began to panic and called police. It was later learned that a fight had broken out over the game and that all the boys, including Adam, had been kicked out of the mall by a security guard. John and Reve worked vigorously to bring attention to the media. Within a few days, the case became national news, and Adam's gap-toothed smile was published and posted on thousands of flyers throughout cities and towns. But by that time, it was already too late.
On August 10, 1981, 2 weeks after Adam was reported missing, his severed head was found in a drainage canal by 2 fishermen more than 120 miles away from home in Vero Beach, Florida. The Walshes were devastated. As the family grieved, the Hollywood Police Department began the official investigation and search for Adam's killer. Thus, another nightmare began for the Walshes, one that would continue to haunt them for 30 long years. In 1981, the Hollywood Police Department in Hollywood, Florida, was highly inexperienced. A case like Adam's had simply never occurred, so the ensuing investigation and search for Adam and his killer was the department's first time handling a case of such magnitude and public recognition. Heavy responsibility fell on the police department's shoulders, and with the public's outcries for justice, the Hollywood Police Department scrambled and inadvertently botched the case. They simply couldn't handle the sheer volume of investigative work involved in the case. Crucial pieces of evidence were either dropped or mishandled, including a blue van that Adam was allegedly seen in.
I don't know where they thought that was going to lead, but it was the only thing that they had, and then they dropped it.
It was some evidence of a car that had been lost. I had gotten involved in this matter a long time ago when the Mobile Press Register was doing an investigation of the Adam Walsh murder, and we successfully obtained release of all of the police records. There were about 10,000 pages that were compiled during the investigation. And the release of those records showed that the police had lost a lot of the evidence that related to the murder.
The police faced a tough case. John was the first prime suspect, but was absolved of any foul play after a highly emotional press conference that was televised nationally. Hollywood Police Department seemed to face a dead end. Eventually, it was concluded that Adam was abducted by a drifter named Otis Toole near the front exterior of the Sears that afternoon.
Toole, 34 at the time of Adam's abduction, was a known and convicted serial killer and cannibal. Toole had reportedly lured Adam into his Cadillac with promises of toys and candy. He then proceeded to drive towards his home in Jacksonville. At first, Adam was docile and calm, but as Toole drove farther and the scenery became unfamiliar, Adam began to panic and started crying for his mother. Toole then punched him in the face and choked him to death. He drove to a deserted service road and decapitated Adam with a machete. Despite a lengthy investigation around Florida, the rest of Adam's body was never located. Later on, Toole claimed to have disposed of the body by incinerating it in an old refrigerator when he had returned to Jacksonville. He drove around with Adam's severed head in his car for a few days until remembering it was in there, and then threw it into a canal. He claimed that he had wanted to make Adam his adopted son. Toole repeatedly confessed and then recanted his confessions many times. His story was always changing, and sometimes he seemed to be delusional. Meanwhile, the Hollywood PD was collecting evidence, things like Toole's Cadillac and the machete used to sever Adam's head. Although the evidence was mounting, Hollywood PD was never able to convict Toole of committing Adam's murder due to several missteps. The police investigation had lost many of the crucial pieces of evidence needed to convict Toole, such as the blood-stained carpet in the trunk of Toole's Cadillac and eventually the car itself. In 1996, at the age of 49, Toole died in prison of cirrhosis while serving a life sentence for other crimes. Following Adam's disappearance, John Walsh became an advocate for the victims of violent crime and the host of the television show America's Most Wanted. The show profiled cases involving the search for and apprehension of fugitives wanted for serious crimes, including murder, rape, kidnapping, and child molestation, and also many of whom are currently on the FBI 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. By raising awareness about these criminals, the public aided their capture by law enforcement officials. As of March 2013, over 1,000 people have been captured because of America's Most Wanted.
The Walshes founded the Adam Walsh Outreach Center for Missing Children in Florida to serve as a national resource for other families with missing children immediately after. It later joined the National Center for Missing Exploited Children, a private, non-profit organization in 1984. Together, they have assisted law enforcement in the recovery of more than 200,000 missing children since they were founded. From 1997 through March 2012, the Amber Alert program has been credited with the return of almost 600 children, and every state has an Amber plan. Furthermore, the recovery rate for missing children has grown from 62% in 1990 to 97% today. The U.S. Congress also passed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act, which was signed into law by President George W. Bush on July 27, 2006. The Walsh Act organizes sex offenders into 3 tiers according to the crime committed. The Act also allocated federal funding to states in order to maintain programs registering sex offenders. Anyone convicted of a sex crime must register as an offender, and their information will be posted on their internet for the public to see. In 2006, John Walsh called on the help of Detective Joe Matthews to reinvestigate the case. Matthews spent countless hours poring over the existing evidence, trying to piece together what really happened on July 27, 1981. In the following interview clip, Matthews recounts his interactions with Toole, the primary suspect.
And Otis Toole said after he beheaded Adam, he was so covered in blood, he had to change his clothes and he threw away his shoes. Well, I have 2 footprints in blood in the front driver's side. And you can see it through the luminol. And then the final thing, Otis Toole admitted beheading Adam. He did terrible things to the head. Then he threw the head behind him and it hit the carpeted floorboard of the back seat. I have a blood transfer from Adam's face onto the carpet, and you actually see the image of his face. And I think that was the most compelling piece of evidence that I found, in addition to finding people that the police never interviewed, and they gave me detailed information based on what Otis Toole personally told them. When you put it all together, every piece of the puzzle eventually fits, and then you have your picture, and that's your case.
The investigation closed in 2008 when Matthews compiled his theories into a 500-page manuscript, which he presented to the Hollywood Police Department. It was a manuscript that finally convinced them that Toole was a true murderer, despite the allegations that Dahmer may have been involved. Matthews, unable to publish a manuscript, wrote the book Bringing Adam Home, along with author Les Stanford, which chronicles the full investigation. Despite the fear created by Adam's kidnapping, he left a lasting legacy in protecting the children of future generations. The publicity and coverage of Adam's kidnapping and brutal murder inspired nationwide efforts for child safety and preventing abductions, but also exacerbated fears as parents everywhere were suddenly terrified for their children's safety.
I think that before and since the FBI records have shown that the number of stranger abductions was somewhere between 50 and 100 a year. So they happened. But in terms of this stuff, the Walshes and the Eton Pates case and others drew tremendous awareness to missing children and all this. And it would seem that it was overemphasized.
In the summer of '81, my wife and I, 4 children, and my oldest son, Joey, he was born one day before Adam. My son's birthday was November 13th, and Adam's birthday was November 14th. And things, I think, before Adam went missing, my wife describes it best. She said, before Adam, a mother would hold the hand of her child. After Adam, the mother would hold the child by the wrist.
Although Adam Walsh's life ended tragically, his murder effectively increased child safety by raising awareness for missing children and passing protective legislation. The Walshes have gained closure, and they continue to rebuild their lives by helping others.
I always, for years, I tried to convince myself that justice delayed was not justice denied. Today's a good day. Today's a wonderful day. We can end this chapter of our lives. It's not about closure. See that picture of that little boy? Will always be the parent of that murdered little boy. It's about justice. And for all the other victims who haven't gotten justice, I say one thing: don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. I think the most positive thing that the Hollywood police collectively said to Reve and I were, we changed the way we do business and look for missing children after Adam, and police all over the world have. So, Reve and I tried very hard to make sure Adam didn't die in vain. Today, this is a reaffirmation of the fact that he didn't die in vain. A beautiful little boy.